Hey, are you looking to gain a better understanding of the UX process? In this video, we're going to go through the 5 key stages of the UX design process and give you some tangible examples along the way. As you're watching this video, if any questions come up about the steps or processes that I'm talking about, please let us know in the comments underneath the video and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Firstly, let's look at the fundamental steps of the UX design process. There's understand, analyze, ideate, validate, and iterate. And we'll look at these in a little bit more detail now. Let's start looking at understand. In this stage, we really want to understand what our customers and users really want and need and where their challenges and problems really are so that we can build and create things that actually solve those problems. It's really common to miss this step when companies aren't following a UX design process very well. And the kinds of mistakes that companies will make is to come up with their own ideas internally or an idea that comes down from management or leadership, and they spend months building and creating these things, lots of time and money, and then they launch something that actually their customers never really wanted. So the understand phase in the UX design process is very, very important. The kinds of things you'll see companies who do UX well in that understand stage are things like interviewing their users, creating surveys to ask their users questions about where their challenges are or what they want improved, reaching out to their customers and really trying to find out what they need, and also things like observing the data that they already have. If they have a product or service that their customers are already using, they'll pay attention to how they're already using it and use that information to understand before they try and come up with the best solutions. Let's look at a real example to illustrate this. If you think about the difference between Uber and on the street taxis, something that Uber did really differently right at the beginning was to really understand and observe the behavior and the pain points of their customers, their users, people who wanted to quickly get from A to B by calling a car. The 2 things that they really identified through a series of really deep observational research and interviews and understanding what people really wanted and really needed and valued with this service, they identified 2 big pain points. One was actually ordering that car and knowing whether it was really going to be coming and how long it would take to arrive and get there. And the other was at the other end of the journey, getting out of the taxi, having to fumble with your wallet, finding cash, not having cash, could you use a credit card, and needing to get out and get to your appointment on time. And that's where the 2 big pain points were, ordering the car and getting out of the car. And because they did that research and understood where those big pain points are with how people already used car services, they were able to completely change the way those things were done by making that flow seamless. But they could only do that and really solve those big user pain points because they knew that those were the pain points from doing that research. And that's where the understanding phase is so valuable for the UX design process. Okay, so let's look at stage 2, analyze. Here is where we take all of the research and learnings that we got from understanding our customers and users and try and make sense of that information. Where does it lead us? What should we do with that information? Are there a few things that we should really focus on that will have a big impact for our users? This is a really important step in the process because managers and leaders will really know where to invest their time and money and what their teams should really work on to have the biggest impact for their customers. The work in the analyze stage can be done in many different ways. You could be analyzing lots of data from a big survey that you've put out to all of your customers. So that can mean looking at your laptop through spreadsheets and other data systems to really see where that data is pointing you. It could also mean a large group of people coming together to workshop and collaboratively break down lots and lots of information and insights into a clear focus and making decisions together as a big group. The analyze stage is my favorite stage in the UX design process because it's where lots and lots of cloudy, uncertain pieces of information come together to provide a good direction for the team to go in, and we start to get the picture of how we might really solve the problems put in front of us. If you think back at that Uber example and how they identified those 2 big pain points, That identification of what the two most important pain points came from analyzing lots and lots of research and data. So that's where maybe lots of little frustrations and other pains and lots of different things going on in the journey of traveling, ordering, booking, paying for a car service got narrowed down to the two biggest, most impactful things that Uber could do to really change the experience of people using car services. That came from analyzing the research. Stage 3, ideate. Ideation means to come up with ideas. So now that we've done understanding where the problems are and frustrations are, analyzing those and finding what's the most important to solve and work on, now we come up with ideas for how we could solve those problems. Ideation is all about taking what we know and coming up with multiple ways to potentially solve it. It's all about ideating, not necessarily picking yet that one that we know will work. This is also a really fun stage that can be done in lots of different ways, digitally, in person, live with workshops and sketching, or even just brainstorming and coming up with really, really quick ideas. And the point is to really bring a multitude of options for how we're going to solve the problem that we've got in front of us. So once we have that mass of potential ideas, we go right into the next stage, which is validation. And the reason why we want to have a few potential good ideas to solve the challenges is because we're not sure yet if they're going to work. And it's a very important step to test and validate those ideas. So as a UX designer, you may find yourself coming up with multiple versions or options of the same thing or different ways to solve the same problem. And then going into this stage where we validate quickly before we spend time really building out and creating the whole thing. So in this validation stage, you might find yourself doing things like making quick mock-ups, quick sketches of concepts, even creating more tangible prototypes that are actually not quite the real thing, but they look real, and doing these things where we're really creating the concept that we have in mind, but before we actually build them, testing them with real people to check if it's actually solving the problem. So you might also find yourself putting your prototypes or mock-ups or sketches back in front of those customers and users and people who might really use your product and getting their feedback and getting their reactions to those things. So if we look back at the first stage of understanding, that's where we really learned what our customers' needs and problems were. Then the next stage of analyzing them to really identify which things do we need to solve, which things are coming up a lot, what's the most important and where can we have the most impact, helps us focus. Then the next stage of coming up with ideas to really solve those problems that will have the most impact, that really need our focus. We come up with lots of different versions, different ideas to try and solve those. And then in this fourth stage of validation, we really check, okay, we've come up with a few ideas, which ones could work better than others, how are we really solving our customers' pain points and needs and problems? And that's where the cycle really kind of comes to fruition, where we say, great, we've found the best way forward now because we've understood, figured out where we need to go, came up with ideas, and then validated that they're definitely going to work so we can set our team off building something that we know will be successful and useful for our customers. So that fourth step, validation, is really important to the process to really check that the ideas that we've come up with really match the pains and frustrations and needs that we saw in the beginning in the understanding stage with researching and finding out what our customers need. That's right, there are 5 stages. So the 5th stage is iteration. And the reason that this is a little bit off to the side from the others is that iteration happens all the way through the process, not only in each small step that you're going through, but also in the bigger cycle. Once you've finished with one idea, you've validated, you've started building something you know will be successful, you can't forget to stop and check sometimes and go back to researching with your customers to check if their needs have changed. You can't think everything will be fine for the next 10 years now because the world changes, the market changes. You might need to test and validate some new ideas. You might need to come up with new, different ideas. You might need to go back and research and understand your customers again. And that cycle of iteration is something that should never be left out of the UX process if you're going to do it well. So those are the 5 stages of the UX design process. And if you follow those, you'll be guaranteed to do UX well. If you have any questions about any of these stages, please let us know in the comments and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So I hope this video has given you a better understanding of the UX process and exactly what's involved. If you're thinking UX design might be right for you and you're thinking about a career change, check out CareerFoundry's free 6-day course. The link is in the description below. You'll get 6 daily lessons that take around 15 minutes each to complete. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the CareerFoundry channel. We've got more videos coming out every week about UX design, UI design, and all of the processes that are involved. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss a new release. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you next time. US, like ask. The processes and steps, it's just like, what word will come out of my mouth next? That's when you can really make big mistakes. And then I kind of lost my train of thought. But that one, yeah.
We learned that often.